utilizing your resources and sticking to your self-care, sticking to your medical plan can be truly beneficial.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. Let me ask you this. You mentioned you were hospitalized. What was that experience like for you? Because I'm pretty sure we have two very different experiences on that front. And I know the people that know me know my experience. I want to hear if yours was good, what yours was like.
No, that's a good question. I don't think any hospitalization is a good experience. No, but like basically, for the most part, like I just knew because I'm bipolar. I got diagnosed bipolar type 2. From my understanding, this is part of my routine. Like I'm working like this new joke. Like all I know is that like if I don't take my medication, I go into manic episode. So when I went through my manic episode, I was taking Prozac. And what I normally do when I take my medication, I take it the first thing I do when I wake up. However, during this time, I wasn't sleeping, so I skipped my medication for 4 days straight. And
oh wow,
yeah, so it's so crazy. And like I also during the time, I'm so scattered brained about this because there were so many things happening at the same time.
No, I totally understand, man.
It basically, like I felt like if I fell asleep, I was going to die. And yeah, so that's what kept me awake. So like I felt like my body was shutting down. I was trying to drink water, but like my throat was super sore, or like something was going on with my throat. And I remember being on social media a lot. I was like trying to bring awareness for this young girl that lost her life due to senseless gun violence, and it went from trying to do something positive to all the way to me wanting Kanye West's MAGA hat on the Joe Rogan podcast. So
I remember that part of it. I was watching, and I don't know if you remember. I think I even messaged you and was like, "Hey, Mike, how's it?" How's it going?
I don't know if I replied, but like a lot of people did, and that was a good thing.
Busy.
Yeah, I was busy losing my mind.
Right.
I appreciate you reaching out, and a lot of people did reach out during that time. It was just a very like something I've never experienced before, and also too, I didn't realize it, but like having that full blown manic episode. I realized after the fact that I was having mini episodes leading up to it.
Really?
Yeah. So like I probably had 3 or 4 mini episodes and I didn't know what it was. Like when I went through this, I had no idea what was going on. I was just losing my mind. I was losing my sense of reality. There was like one, and I was also smoking a lot of weed. So that like after the fact, I realized that marijuana doesn't help with people with bipolar disorder. Right. So weed doesn't cure everything. I remember, like, not the full blown, but one of the manic episodes leading up to it, like in my apartment, like I felt I was in a hard drive. Yeah, it was like because I kept hearing construction noises all around me, so I just thought it was like the sound, like like mechanical, like computers, like the hard drive makes when it's loading something. So I just felt like I was losing my mind. I didn't feel safe leaving my apartment or leaving my room. But I don't talk about this a lot too. Like the day of the medic, like man, I don't think I've ever talked about this, but the day of like my manic episode before I was truly hospitalized, that morning, I went to the hospital twice. That night, I went to a civilian hospital emergency room because I thought if I went to the VA I was going to get killed because of the I will say I had great VA experiences, but the one time I went to the VA in LA, like it was just so bad that I felt like if I was going to go there I was going to die. So I went to a civilian hospital like down the road from my apartment, and it was just so understaffed. It was a worse experience than that VA. And so they sent me home and I couldn't sleep. And the morning of, I seriously thought God was talking to me. I thought everything was a sign from God. Even like I had my Apple TV on, the movies that was listed there, I felt like each movie was telling me what to do. There was one point where I thought I thought God was telling me to go to Mexico.
Oh wow!
Just because of one of the titles was like, not necessarily the title was "Go to Mexico," but like it was it was something with Mexico. And then so I left my wallet, I left my keys, I left my cell phone inside my apartment, and I just left. And I seriously thought I had to like escape. So I remember like I tried to get into someone's car. Like no one was in it, but I thought like I was supposed to get into someone's car. And then like I remember, because I live like about a block away from my campus at the time. I went to CSU Northridge, and I just like wandered lost. And I seriously thought, and again, like I was revving up for this Manic episode. I seriously thought I was Jesus. Like I thought I was starting over. And yeah, like I just remember like just following the light, like following signs. Like whenever I heard like something like distract me, that's what I would follow. Like I heard music and it led me to this one facility. I remember like I realized like I was locked out of my apartment and I needed to get back into my apartment. So I asked this one guy if I can use his phone, and he wouldn't let me use it. Mind you, I was kind of like out of it. And like
right.
I blew up on him. I'm like, God, dude, just like help a fellow human being out. And then later that day, I finally managed to get into my apartment, and I was still on social media. Like I got into this tirade, not necessarily a tirade, but like there was this. Damn, like hopefully this all makes sense. Like it's like this is the first time I'm actually talking about this.
All right, now take your time, man. You're doing fine.
Like there is this podcast that like from San Diego. They're very successful. I don't want to say the name of it, but like at the time when I was on the social media tirade, I was trying to maximize my reach. I want to see how much like one person is capable of, because I felt like we live in a society where like we're not like people, like I think we're conditioned to think we're not as big as we think we are. I think like
right.
I think we're conditioned like by the media, like not necessarily this is like a conspiracy theory or anything, but I feel like we're conditioned to think that like we're not as big as the stars we see on TV, because I feel like if you're projected on TV, that means those on TV are better than you.
Right.
So that's just how that's just how I feel. That's just how I felt. So I wanted to prove that like one person can make a difference. Like anybody can make a difference. So I was like doing all this social media stuff. I was on Twitter. I think I deleted some of the tweets, but like they're from like January 2019. You could probably look it up if you choose to go back that, whether it be you or I don't think you will, but like any listeners interested in this. And basically going back to the podcast, I found out that they were repped by an agency, and which was cool. Like I don't have anything against it, but at the same time, I was kind of like, I learned by being doing comedy and being in LA how everything is repped by agencies. Like the agencies control everything you see, control all the media you see on television. And I just thought that was disgusting, because these agencies, like all they care about is making money off you.
Right.
And like I remember talking to a fellow comic buddy of mine. He was saying that like he visited, like he went to go talk to an agent, and he ended up getting an agent, but like he told me, and I remember this, it's like, yeah, there's like a little wheel, there's like a little pie chart of 8 different ways they can monetize your career. Like books, like podcasts, like movies, television. I forget the other 4. But like basically like their thing is like to suck the money out of you. And
right.
It's like that was just disgusting with me, However, when I found out that the podcast was read by agency, I was happy for them. Despite my feelings towards like agencies, I was happy that they were getting success. So I started they were a leftist podcast. Like it was following. Like I don't want to like describe it too much because it might give it away, but like they were pretty much anti-Republican, anti-Trump, and like so. But then what my mistake was, I thought they were doing the podcast. To be fair, I didn't listen to the podcast. I only listened to one episode. But to be fair, I thought that they were doing that they were trying to do good work as far as bringing people together. And that's another thing too, like that I'll go into. I thought they were trying to do the good things as far as it's like, hey, pointing out the flaws in the other side, but hopefully bringing people together, and then dealing with them or one person on private message. I was trying to like say like, hey, like I'm trying to work on this plan of trying to like trying to like reach out as far as I can as one person, but I needed to know that like no agencies can touch it because I wanted to be authentic, and they interpreted it as me trying to take them down.
Really?
Yeah, and also it wasn't just that too. There was other things where like dude, this story is just so deep that like there's so many different entangled parts. That was just part of that story, but there's another side of that story where is any of this interesting? Like I know.
Oh yeah, dude.
Okay,
yeah.
So I'm like I said, this is the first time I'm talking about this. Like there was another side where like I thought, dude, oh man, dude, this is crazy. I thought Joe Rogan was a robot. Because I remember like as I was going through my Twitter feed, like I said, I was trying to bring awareness to Jasmine Barnes, who's the young girl that lost her life to senseless gun violence, and I saw Joe Rogan tweet this random thing about a monkey. So I tweeted this was like 11:52 p.m. or like this was really late in the night. And so I tweeted at him, and then obviously he doesn't respond. And then then 2 minutes later, he tweets about like this like a conspiracy theory, and I took that as it's like, oh, okay, you care about these things, but you don't care about like a girl that died due to gun violence. So I honestly thought that like his Twitter account was just being like controlled by a bot. Like he wasn't controlling his own Twitter account. Like, so then I went into full conspiracy mode. It's like, well, who else is controlling all these celebrity accounts? And I remember seeing like a fellow comic who, it's so hard to describe without saying, like, without it being like without putting it out there.
Right.
Basically, I saw her post this thing about the Greensboro massacre. She's like, and she's just like, don't forget about the Greensboro massacre. And then I tweeted back. I was like, oh, thanks for reminding me. And as a joke, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, and to be fair, I honestly forgot about I forgot what the Greensboro massacre was, but like basically it got to a point where I was trying to trend a hashtag like that brings awareness to the Greensboro massacre, but it was utilizing this individual's name. And on top of that, so I'm trying to utilize like the person that tweeted. I'm utilizing her name, like blame this person, hashtag blame this person, for reminding me about the like Greensboro massacre, right? As like a positive thing, because I was trying to say anyone can. That was another thing too. That was like going to my one person making a difference. I was like, anybody can create a hashtag trend and make it happen. And on top of that too, going back to the Jasmine Barnes thing, I brought awareness. I wanted to bring awareness to her because a family member, I think it was a family member, like posted in one of the articles saying like, I want you to say her name. And I just thought it'd be awesome to like start this movement into getting everyone to say Jasmine Barnes' name. And so I would say hashtag say her name in everything I type. So I would say hashtag blame this person and hashtag say her name. So when the whole podcast thing came up, the blame your person, she's a part of this podcast. And one of the person that runs the podcast who like does the main thing, like is the main person, the main focal point, she has to go by a pseudonym because she works for a department of the government. So like right. She can't do like she can't go up against her boss, you know what I mean? So so when I basically tagged the podcast and I tagged MAGA, just trying to create like opposites. So it's like, let's come to the table and talk. Like I did like hashtag police and then like public trust. Like I was trying to get opposite sides to come together to talk. So when I tagged the podcast, I also tagged say her name. And everyone interpreted that as me saying, oh, she wants me to say the pseudonym's name. Instead of, but to me, it was like, no, like I wanted it to say Jasmine Barnes' name. So you see how it's all connected in a sense, like it wasn't just one moving piece. And so we get into that tirade and then like it causes this big old rift in the San Diego comedian scene. Yeah, like people thought I was doing a bit. Right. Like basically the person like who like not necessarily to say her name, but the pseudonym person, like she went on the like the comedian's page like, I am never working with Mike DeVore again. And then everyone's like, whoa, what's going on? And then she like showed all the screen capture. And mind you, like we were private messaging all the time. And I was trying to like, no, this is for a good thing. Like I'm trying to bring awareness, but I can't tell you what it is because it like if you know what I'm trying to do, you're not like if you know what my end goal is. What's up?
Like it would taint it if she knew.
Yeah, exactly. So I felt at the time that I had the reputation of being a really good person, like right. just trust me, like that type of thing. But it like then to my credit, I guess like obviously what I learned is like if you fuck with people's money, that reputation goes to shit. Yeah. And which I didn't mean to, like, you know what I mean? Like that wasn't my intention, but that's what happens. So they go on this tirade and then like it blows up in the San Diego comedy scene, and I'm still like creating all this stuff. So now like it goes from her, from my understanding, it goes from her like saying I'm never working with this person again to try and save face. It's like, oh, this person needs help. Let's let's contact the loved one, whatever. And then cops show up to my apartment and I guess to do a welfare check. And man, like I said, like hopefully this all is, to me, it's all connected, but like it.
No, it's making sense.
Okay.
Doing good.
And then, so cops show up to my place and like, or another thing, going back, another thing that like I was trying to accomplish too was like, I felt that people are unhappy with their lives because they're not doing what they want to do. And I was thinking, it's like, what if everyone, like, what if everyone pursued what they wanted to pursue, how much better of a world we would live in. Right. Like that's what I truly believe. So when I went to the hospital, I found like I would ask everyone that I encountered, like every nurse, I'm like, why do you do what like you do? Like, and they were like, someone would be like, oh, it's a job, but like some people would be like, oh, because I want to help people. And then I would fucking be like, fuck yeah, like this person is exactly where he needs to be right now. The person, the final like hospital or the physician or mental health therapist that saw me, I was trying to explain to her like what was going on. I probably wasn't doing a good job because I was going through the manic episode or the mini manic episode, but she didn't want to be there. Like here's someone who, like, my life is on the line, and this person doesn't even want to help me out at a facility where you're supposed to help people out. Yep. So that got me like, well, I want to be able to, like, if my life is on the line, like, I want to make sure that people are there to, like, I can trust someone like that's going to do their job in that position, whether it be police, whether it be like hospital or firefighters. Like, I just wanted to like make sure, like, what if like everyone was doing what they wanted to do. So that was another thing that I was trying to accomplish too, was bring awareness to that. So there's so much to unpack here. And the thing was, like, another thing that I wanted, like, because I was living in LA at the time, I wanted to go back down to San Diego, but I didn't feel I was in the position to drive, like, which makes sense. I was losing my mind. Like, the last thing I wanted to do is locked inside a car by myself for like 3 hours driving south to San Diego.
Right.
And so I thought, like, you know, it's a funny thing. I felt like if you tell people what exactly you want, people think you're crazy.
Oh yeah.
Like, and because I remember, this all ties into like the whole cop thing showing up to my place, but like I remember like Elon Musk on the Joe Rogan podcast. He was like, Joe Rogan asked him, it's like, whoa, what inspires you to like build a hole in like LA to like start drilling? Like what was it something like you inspired you? And then Elon Musk was just like, I just wanted to drill a hole. I just wanted to
ignore my
no worries.
Sorry about that.
Everyone's watching it right now. So all one viewer. No, so like Elon Musk was like, I just wanted to build a hole. And to me, that was inspiring because I was like, oh, this is why Elon's like a multimillionaire, because he just has this simple concept. So when I was going through that whole social media thing, part of the reason why the whole Kanye West and MAGA hat came up was because to me that was like that MAGA hat was a sign of hope. Not necessarily MAGA hat in general, but Kanye West's MAGA hat was a sign of hope to say, it's like, hey, if you set out for a goal, like that's, no matter how big or how small, like imagine like accomplishing that goal. Imagine if I did get Kanye West's MAGA hat on the Joe Rogan podcast. How cool of a story would that have been? But it obviously didn't happen. So like, so basically, going back to just being like, just telling people exactly what you want. The cops showed up and they're all questioning me, and I told them, I'm like, yeah, can I just get a ride down to San Diego from the cops because I don't feel safe to drive myself? And they're like, why don't you just drive yourself? I'm like, I'm not in a position to drive myself. Like, I'm just asking public safety. Like, you guys are cops. Like, can you drive me down? And they're like, oh, we're not equipped to deal with that. And I'm like, why not? And they're like, well, we're undermanned and like we're stretched so thin, which goes back to being in the military, where I was saying, like, you're supposed to do all this stuff with little resources. So like, do you see the common like thing here? Like going back to the hospital, they're like, it was so undermanned, understaffed that like, it was hard for them to do their job with limited resources. And so like the cops eventually ended up giving me a ride to the local VA. Like, they're like, hey, we can't take you there, but we will give you a ride to the VA. And then I go to, they drop me off in front of the VA, but they don't escort me inside. And I take that as, it's like, oh, they don't care about me. They're just like, oh, they just did their job and went about their day. And that's when I like go on Instagram Live. And by this time, social media is blowing up. Like everyone's like hitting me up. Everyone is like trying to reach out at me. I remember my ex-wife was like because she called and I told her I'm outside the VA, and she was just like she's like, just go inside. And I said, I will only go inside if you tweet at Kanye West to give me, if you tweet me and Kanye West, or tweet at Kanye West saying, can you give It's Mike DeVore's your MAGA hat on the Joe Rogan podcast. So on top of telling people what I want, people were reaching out in words. They're like, what do you need? Like, you're not yourself. And I was telling them, like, just tweet at Kanye West, which goes back to like, I'm trying to make a big movement here. Like, just tweet at Kanye. But everyone keeps thinking it's like, oh, I'm nobody. I'm this little person. There's no, like, Kanye West is up here. I'm this person right here. And we're so connected with like the internet, the fact that you can just like tweet at Kanye West, like, hey Kanye West, like what, like, you know what I mean? Like you could just reach out to somebody. Like, we're that connected, but people think there's that status, like that we're so far apart that like that we're like at the low level, and I'm trying to prove that we're not. So people were like reaching out to me. One comic, like one of my mentors, reached out to me, and he was just like, when it came to the whole like comedy side of it, he was just like, you know, the one thing you want to like protect is your reputation. You don't want to have this reputation. And like at this, like, and that was the worst advice they gave me, because at that time I was like, the last thing I gave a fuck about was my reputation. I'm like, I'm losing my fucking mind right now. Like, telling me to worry about my reputation. Fuck you. And so like I was screaming into my cell phone on Instagram Live, and then this like security guard he showed up, and like he was just like, hey, is everything cool? And then that's when I went from being angry to being chill, because I was like, hey, like I'm on Instagram Live, and I'm like, do you mind? Like, he's like, and I asked him, I'm like, hey, I'm live right now. Do you want to be recorded? And he was just like, no. So I respected his decision. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't want to put his stuff out there. So I kept it on me. And I asked him, I'm like, hey man, like, why do you do what you do? Like, why'd you become a security guard? And he was just like, or why did you want to be an armed officer? Because he was like the VA police officer. He's just like, I want to help people. So I'm like, perfect. Like, so you see the common theme here. It's just like, I just wanted to be in a position where my life was on the line, and people were in the position where they want to be because they wanted to be there. Right. So I go into the VA. Like, sorry if this is like taking up a lot of your time. Like,
no, you're good, man. I am gonna slip outside and grab a cigarette.
No worries. No worries. So I go into the VA, and like my therapist, she was there, and like my doctor, my primary care physician was there, and they recognized me right away. They were like, oh, this guy is way off his baseline. And I'm trying to tell them all about like my experience or being going back to the whole civilian hospital. They're the ones that tell me that I was bipolar, but the way they told me, yeah.
Really? So that was your first?
Yeah, it was at that hospital where like the lady didn't give a fuck about being there. So, and the way I found out that I was bipolar was they gave me my discharge papers, and on the way home I was reading them, and that's how I found out that I was diagnosed bipolar. They didn't even tell me. Yeah, so I'm trying to explain like to the VA hospital what's going on, and yeah, like I'm losing my mind. I'm crying. Like at one point, my brother shows up. Like, and honestly, when I was like I said, like going through the Manic episode, you feel like you're losing sense of reality. I felt that I was going to get replaced by some other version of me. Like they were just going to get rid of me, and like someone's just going to fill my place and like live my life. So I like completely lost it. Like I saw, this is so hard to explain, but when I completely lost my mind, I feel like I figured out the meaning of life, which is
No,
like I
believe it or not, I
like
get that.
I felt that for me personally, the meaning of life is just going up and downs, just going through the journey of living your life. That's just the meaning of life to me. And they eventually, like at first, like they're like, even though this VA facility was pretty like not state of the art, but they were pretty state of the art. They weren't like equipped to handle like my situation, so they wanted me to like get transported on a like an ambulance to like this other facility. And like at first I was resisting it because I was like, no, they're just going to replace me. They're just going to get rid of me. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're just going to kill me. But eventually, like I was just like, you know what? I'll go. And like I seriously thought like when I got in that hospital, in that ambulance, I thought they were going to take me to the thing was I seriously thought that was the end of my life, because as we were driving, we drove past a cemetery, and like I was
Still seeing these signs.
like I said,
stuff, right?
I'm thinking God's talking to me, and I'm seeing all these signs.
Right.
And it's like eventually I get to this other hospital. I don't remember much, but there's like moments of what I do remember. I remember trying to get out of my bed because I didn't trust where we like I didn't think we were at a real hospital. Like I didn't believe where I was. I thought like I was in some like makeshift like Hollywood setting. I was in LA. I thought I was in some Hollywood like movie or something like that. Right. And and I'm still like with being bipolar, going through the manic episode, you still feel like this adrenaline rush of like pure euphoria. So I'm feeling good this entire time. Like I feel like nothing can stop me still. And then eventually they transfer me to this other facility where I don't know if it's the same facility. I just don't remember, but I remember like they monitor me for like 2 or 3 days, and like eventually they send me home, and like I go and stay with my brother for a few weeks. And at the time too, like me and my brother weren't like we weren't really talking, but like that whole incident like taught me a lot of things. It taught me like who would be there for me. I thought like right. Basically like the people that I thought that were going to be there for me weren't there for me. The people like that I didn't think that was going to be there for me came through for me. So like that taught me a lot about life. And going through that manic episode, going through that mania, like, you know, like I said, it's this euphoric feeling. You feel amazing. You feel like unstoppable. But when I finally got to my brother's house, and for like that whole thing lasted like probably about 5-6 days. My like the low point of being bipolar, that lasted for months. Like feeling depressed all the time, feeling like right. Like just death is around the corner. You hear stories of, and when you're going through this stuff, like I have a bit mixed feeling about like when they announce when someone dies, because, or like when the veteran commits suicide. It sucks like to know that it does happen, but also I feel when it comes to depression, it like it can be contagious. Like they're
oh yeah,
like that's another thing where I like that I'm scared about with depression is I think it's contagious, because you could be feeling low and then you're like, oh, that person killed himself. Maybe like that sounds like a good idea for myself. My whole thing was, what prevented me from killing myself was the fact that I wanted to live. Like I want to live. Like I want to live my life to the fullest ability. But what got me through all of that were the people that I've seen, like not necessarily your post, but other people would post their stories about going through depression, feeling pretty low, and like to know that I wasn't alone. That's what saved my life. So.
Right. Sorry, I'm moving around so much. By the way, my arms are getting like
no,
tired.
No, it's giving
phone,
you.
So for anybody watching, that's not.
No, that's fine, dude. So.
No, you know what? I think I don't know. I don't want to cut you off. Shoot, I just lost you. Hang on. I'm not trying to cut you off. I just wanted to throw in there while you were talking about that. For when I tell my story here in a minute, remind me about that part in particular, the way you feel with the wanting to be alive and all that, because I've got something with my story that I think is fairly relevant to that. But go ahead and finish. I'm sorry. I just wanted to, because I'm bad to forget.
That's fine. I might forget too, but
yeah.
But like part of the like I said, like I look at those posts that people make as far as like telling their story. I look at it as beacons of hope. Like I look at it as, it's like, hey, you're going through a dark period right now, but like you're not alone. Here's a sign that shows you like, hey, like we're going through this too, but this is how we express ourselves. This is how we get through this depression. And I saw all those signs in not only Facebook posts, but like in art, like in movies and music, like being a creator myself, like being a screenwriter myself. Like I see, like it goes back to like me wanting to know why people do the things they do. Are they doing it because they just want the clout? Do they just want the attention for it, or do they just want the status, or are they doing it for the sake of like that's what drives them, that's what they want to do, because that's what they need to do. And when I feel like people are being authentic and people are doing the things because they need to do it, that's what I gravitate to.